trace engine. But more of that later, hopefully.
Yes, a feature of that particular six-horse road loco that is special to those that were fitted with crane jibs is the much heavier front axle arrangement and wider wheels. And this, of course, was to cope with the load. The jib sticks out at the front of the engine, so that the load would be carried on the hook in front of the smoke box. You can see the hoisting winch mounted in front of the chimney, and so a great deal of that weight goes onto the front axle, and Burrell's understandably beefed it up to enable that to cope.
It's a lovely engine to drive, very docile. Mind you, I am a bit of a Burrell fan, even though I owned a Ruston for many years, but it's quite funny actually when Les, the whole Searle family decided they'd do their steam competence test, and Les appeared to do the manoeuvring on the Burrell, you see, and I said, what's happened to both the series? He said, well, I think I'd rather do it on this one.
Understandable when you know the ins and outs of these different engines.
Here's Mr. Marshall looking very composed and everything under control. Note the ease of access and egress. Nothing, we were speaking good things of you. Well, we've got a celebrity here actually on the Thornycroft. John Marshall's just been in to tell me the story. That's Teddy Tipper out there, and as a 13-year-old lad he bought a wagon just like this one and took it home and kept it safe, and eventually last year he sold it to John, who's taking him round the ring. And John's got that wagon up here in the World War I display. So welcome, Teddy, and we're delighted that you managed to save such a priceless relic. Morning, Mr. Morgan. Yeah, got an interesting roller there which Ian acquired last year and has repainted it to the War Department, classic War Department colour really of dull khaki, and lettered up with their name. And of course they did run quite a lot of rollers for building airfields, repairing roads as the forces advanced. Everything, of course, as you advance, everything's been smashed up by the retreating enemy. So rollers did play their part very much in the advance across Europe and places like that, repairing the roads to get the essential supplies brought forward. Well, suddenly we've got a few more on the go. Alan, what have we got now coming? Now there's one you probably, like me, have not seen before. That big plate. Yeah.
Yes, I was just looking at that and taxing my memory on it, and I think you're right that it's a fresh one to me.
It is absolutely, and I'm frantically going through the programme as we speak, because there is a bit on it.
It's got a Lincolnshire registration, a Kesteven county registration on it, so it was sold fairly locally when it was new from the Lincoln manufacturers. But more than that, at this juncture, I can't really say. You will have to delve into the book, sir.
This is where we miss our dear old friend and great character, the late John Reeves, who was a veritable mine of information on things like this. Bless him. I found it yesterday and then it never reappeared, which was very frustrating because I eventually found the right bit in the programme, which of course the programme running to some 200 pages or whatever it is. It's a bit of a challenge just looking through to pick one out.
Yes, we really need our own researcher, don't we, sitting alongside us, whose sole job would be to look these things up.
I can't find it. It won't come on the road locos because it's an agricultural, isn't it?
Certainly had that look about it to me.
I'll look under the city of Lincoln. There we are. Clayton and Shuttleworth 7 horsepower road loco, Lady G. Built 1915, new to Harry Adcock and Son. Timber Merchants of Corby Glen, Lincolnshire. Cost £600 new. Worked in the 20s up to the 50s on timber and general purpose work for several owners in that area.
Interesting choice for a timber contractor, I would have thought.
Big engine, yeah, to be crashing about in the wood with. And when it sat down on its bottom, it would be a bit of jacking and packing required, wouldn't there?
One suspects that it did a lot of one-position winching, roping out fallen trees from a wood, probably using a lot of extension cables and snatch blocks to drag the trunks up to the engine rather than the engine going to get to the fallen trunks itself.
Now down in the hollow, in the middle of the ring, we've got the timber gang getting to work. Something is going to happen. I imagine they're probably going to upend the timber trolley to get the logs off. And then they'll show you quietly how we reload them. Because there's an engine set at right angles to the load of logs, which is undoubtedly going to get the winch rope out on that, and then there is another engine holding the trolley at the moment, so I rather suspect that we shall see the logs coming off, and then we'll put them back on the hard way.
You went round just now.
I remember doing that many years ago on the old site, and I was holding the trolley, and Jim Sarney upended it just as my wife arrived, and I got the severe telling off, "What are you doing tipping the log trolley over? You know, silly arse, you should drive more carefully." I said, "Well, I'm only holding it whilst they tip it over."
Then you had to do some explanation, yeah.
Yeah. But we'll talk you through that as it goes along, because as I say, they're undoubtedly going to show you how timber would have been loaded using just the engine winch.
Yes, and in the absence of Nick Baker as section leader down there, because he is now retired from that, he tells me, owing to the fact that he sold his Burrell road locomotive, that lovely engine that was the last engine the late and much lamented Steve Neville owned, the Duke of Kent. And he's gone and got himself a Ruston, so he can join in with the City of Lincoln celebration.
Yeah. Oh, it was a never-ending turtle. Look at them go over there. The children. There's that tank going now, look. They're on. There's that tank there. Making a noise.
We've got some lost property here, a pair of glasses in a bookcase handed in. They were found by the crossing, Watford Gap as we call it, where you walk across them into the heavy haulage arena. And there is a car registration and a phone number written inside the box. That's WN08GWN. So they're your glasses. If you can find your way to the box without them, we'll reunite you with them.
And as the big load hauled by the diesel boys goes past us here, we've got 3 scamels performing the duty of hauling this trailer. At the front, as load engine, as load tractor, which is the one that's attached to the trailer itself. We've got a scamel constructor. We've another constructor in recovery guys, civilian recovery guys, barred to that as the trace tractor. And then bringing up the rear, or back shoving as the haulage men used to call it, is a scamel explorer. The 2 constructors at the front would both have been almost certainly Army general purpose heavy tractors from the 1950s. These also would have been petrol engine, because the Army at the time was standardising everything on petrol to try and operate a one-fuel policy, because they found during the war that having to sort out the logistics of both petrol and diesel supplies for advancing armies was unnecessarily complicated. And due to the fact that there were no small diesel engines available for the lighter vehicles, they opted to go all petrol.
Black train. Are you ready?
And you are.
And the trailer they are hauling is the Crane 200-ton payload hydraulically suspended trailer, the first of its type in the world, built in 1952 for Pickford's as their TM413. This is the Pickford's fleet number, and it was a remarkable breakthrough, this trailer. Up until that time, anything that was able to carry 100 tons was really quite unusual, and such trailers would only number in the low teens at most in this country. And then Pickford's ordered this trailer capable of 200 tons, and not only capable of carrying that weight, but also using the hydraulic rams that form the struts of each of the axles on the bogies front and rear, was able to lift it as well. So it was hydraulically suspended and controlled. And as I say, this was a huge breakthrough in heavy haulage in the early 50s, and enabled the haulage contractors, both Pickford's and very soon following them with similar trailers from Cranes, were Winds of Newport, to move ever larger loads, particularly for the electricity generating industry.
Big Fowler just going down the hill there. Our Gorman family over from Ireland. We always have a good gang of Irish come over. to join in the events here. That engine, big Fowler road loco Mandela. That's typical of the sort of heavy haulage engine that would have been used to manage a big trailer in the days of Norman Box and the early days of Pickfords and so on. Very powerful, heavy engine, capable of moving 50 or 60 tons without too much trouble at all. There's Rochester heading down the hill with the trailer. Now, Rochester, of course, is a typical agricultural engine because we classify the engines into different sorts. You've got road haulage engines, you've got road haulage tractors, you've got agricultural engines, you've got showman's engines and so on. And the agriculturals were one of the most common and one of the simplest. Very often single cylinder like Rochester. There's no springs on that engine, it's solid drive, so it's quite a rough ride on the road, which is why a lot of the engines have been fitted with rubber tyres in recent times. Very limited distance it can travel on the road because you've only got the back tank to carry the water, you haven't got the extra water supply with the belly tank, which is the tank that's fitted between the wheels. And they were, to say, relatively slow on the road. So they would have potted around the village, fetching a bit of stuff from the railway station to the various farms. And of course they were principally used for powering equipment via a flat belt. So you would drive a threshing machine or wood saw, something of that sort, any equipment of that type, because they're fitted with governors. If you look at a lot of these engines, you'll notice on the top of the cylinder block, you'll see a curious looking column with a set of balls, and they have them here on the Clayton that's just pulling up in front of us. You can see them on Tim Mayhew's burrel that's just about to go with the trailer, and basically they control the speed of the engine. So when you actually want to use the engine on a belt, you then put a little belt from the crankshaft of the engine up to the governors, and that will then maintain the speed of the engine at the desired rate to drive the thrashing drum or whatever. Very important with the thrashing drum that it runs at the right speed, because if it's not fast enough it won't thrash the corn. If it's too fast your riddles are going to be bouncing up and down and you're not going to clean the corn in the desired fashion. So it's very important to say that it maintains a steady speed. And if you go down to the wood sawing area, which is off down in the next field beyond